Alright, my name is Ryan Listerman, and I'm a computer programmer. I guess you just want my history.
What did you study in college?
Okay, and like I was saying, I started a lot earlier than college. Um, Maybe to make it succinct, I took all the classes that were available in like computer literacy when I was in school. That started. There were labs that they did when you're in elementary school, and then there were actual classes in junior high. There wasn't a lot available at the time here. There was a Pascal programming class that I could take in high school. I think I might have taken that my senior year. And then when I could get a hold of a computer, and eventually I got my own computer, then I spent a lot of time programming, generally in BASIC, which was readily available to me at the time. When I went to college, I had I was a computer science major, and that entailed a lot of math and physics classes. I had enough math to have a math minor, and I was just a few, maybe 5 classes short of a major in math, so I could have dual majored in it, but that would have been a lot more time committed to it that I didn't opt for that. Um, Generally, the curriculum in computer science involves your hardware. There's a lot of things about the hardware and systems of a computer. Probably a lot more about like your operating systems and other computer data structures. And then actually programming classes. I think CIS and CSE share a lot of things in common there. There's basically an emphasis on learning at least a couple of programming languages. Um, CIS focuses, I think, more on like the business-related programming classes like Fortran and COBOL, which are, I think, considered kind of antiquated, but a lot of mainframes run with those. I know that when I worked at some of the companies I've worked at, there's an entire department for running older mainframe systems, and you have to have a lot of people that know those languages. I don't know COBOL or Fortran, anything like that. Primarily, when I was in school, Java was big, and so I had more than a few classes in Java. C++ and C were kind of foundational languages at that point, so that was basically what I learned more than anything was C++. Um, C# was not really a thing at the time. That's came a little bit later, and I've actually done a bit in JavaScript and some languages like Angular. But as far as college goes, those weren't really options at the time. So Java and C++ development was what a lot of my classes were in. Or there was even some early forays into like functional programming, but that's not something I do a lot of with work. Is there more? My curriculum in college, I can go into a little more detail, but I don't know if that would be really helpful.
How did you prepare for your career?
Well, that does actually, I spent a lot of my own time, a lot of my personal time developing different kind of applications, a lot of games. When I was in high school, that was kind of what I did in BASIC more than anything, was develop games. There wasn't a lot of help available on that, so I got used to working with the computers, but I didn't necessarily get a lot of the more advanced concepts. I had to get that in school. It's kind of one of those things where once you have foundational information and you have maybe some of the concepts, or now, you have the internet and a lot of training opportunities available. But at the time, really I just needed to have the schooling. I needed to have instructors that were familiar with, your advanced structures and algorithm production. When you do it on your own, you're just kind of winging it, finding out, how things work in the computer. You get a lot of experience troubleshooting and debugging things, which is an important part of computer programming. Ability to isolate and figure out why bugs are happening.
Okay. And what advice would you have for other people?
To get into a career as a computer programmer?
I guess so.
Yeah, I think definitely this time spent on it. Now there are a lot of resources available on the web. That might even be one of the first things, is just become web savvy. That probably helps a lot. There are certain foundational skills you have to have. Keyboarding is pretty important. Probably some classes in that. I'm not really necessarily following the disciplines that I learned in junior high as far as touch typing. I kind of have my own style, but I guess it's something I developed over time. So yeah, familiarity with computers and how they work is great. And you can kind of get that on your own, especially if you're motivated to do it. You can open a computer and look in. Probably maybe some foundational information would be important if you're going to do that. It's not a bad idea to make use of the resources that you have.
All right, before we close off, I would like you to explain some of the computer jargon that you have been using. A lot of people won't know what things you are talking about. Like you said CIS and CSC, but a lot of people don't know what the difference is as far as what they stand for. And I know you explained...
There may be some boundaries blurred now, but when I was in school, computer science was CSC. That's the degree that I got, which is, like I said, there was an emphasis on math and physics. It was more than just how to be literate with a computer and how to do the programming work. It was really kind of an all-encompassing, comprehensive, what is your foundational hardware, how does it work and why, how does an operating system overlay that and allow you to interface with the computer, and then, of course, you build the programming so that the computer, you can do what you want to do with the computer. CIS is Computer Information Systems, and it may be different now, but at the time, it was kind of more business focused. It's how will you use a computer for a business. And so I don't think there's nearly as much in the math requirements for CIS, and I think that they may actually be business and statistics related. I know that I was sometimes in the CIS buildings for classes, but I also had a business minor, so that put me over there a little bit. Yeah, that's basically the main differences between the two. CIS is a little more accessible, I think, because there's not a lot of intrusive and heavy courses in math and physics that you have to take with CIS. CIS will focus more on how do you program for a business. How do you write applications a business can use? And CIS, the thing they did in CIS that I didn't get in CSC was a lot of the like mainframe languages. There's classes in that. It's in a way it's considered, I guess, an entry to business, because businesses still need those languages until they have scrapped them and moved on to something else. I know that at least when I was working like 10 years ago, there was a lot of people in the mainframe department that were CIS people.
Where does web development fall in that?
Web development, that's basically writing applications that run in a browser or can be accessed via the web. It's just another discipline of it. I've done a little bit here and there. My first job was basically an e-commerce programmer, so that was in Java.
Okay, and let's see. What was your official degree? I mean, like, what was the title? What does it say on your diploma?
It's a bachelor's degree in computer science. I had, I was one of the few people at MSU that did the departmental distinction. That at the time there wasn't actually a curriculum for that. And I'm not sure if they ever devised it afterwards, but it was something that they had rolled out in the honors college. So what that entailed was basically you had to do honors level courses, which if there weren't any, then you had to find out what criteria they would want, and you could add that added to courses. Essentially, you had to do extra projects for the professors to get a honors component, and then I had to write a kind of almost like if you were going to write a doctoral thesis, and I had to do a project around that, which was based on, as I remember, I did something on parity and error handling over internet communications.
Okay, and what is your job title?
I think I'm a software engineer. I just tend to say developer because that encompasses all the duties that I have, more or less. Where I am now, they just changed. Titles can kind of change from time to time, and I'm in like the senior software associate line of work.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add for girls looking to go into computer science?
I think what I would suggest is give it a try. If you are interested in computers, it's not as daunting as it might seem. But again, it really helps to have pointers and get started. I think that most of the things I've learned or that I've had the most success or enjoyed the most, once you have kind of a roadmap of what you need to do, then it's just good to get into it and try it out. It's a lot of fun when you do it on your own. When you have to do it for a job, there's a little less fun, so it's a good idea to find things that you enjoy when you do it as a hobby. And I would also say that it's probably a good idea just to be using computers and be literate in them anyway, because it doesn't matter what job you're going to be doing or where you're going to be going, you're going to be dealing with computers. So I would say you're going to have a lot of knowledge in that, no matter where you go or what you do.
All right. Any other questions, Crystella? Okay. Thank you for your time, Mr. Listerman.
Absolutely.